And we're live.
Sometimes I'm like, I'm always grateful we do this show, but sometimes I'm especially grateful we do the show. Like I don't do the therapy every week like I used to. I'm trying to frame this right. Whatever, it's fine. And I just getting to do this with you sometimes just makes me feel like I get things off my chest. It's
awesome.
Time.
Yeah, similar. Yeah.
Like I didn't have like a bad day at work, but it was just stressful. And then like I had to come home. I wanted to do my sax lesson. I wanted to do this, got to walk the dogs. And it's just like, just talking to you, just doing this, I don't know, it means a lot, man.
Oh, that's awesome. I agree.
You can't let a compliment hang, so I have to talk over it. Otherwise I get uncomfortable. I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I don't really know if this will turn into a whole much. That's fine. We got a show to get to. So I heard somebody say that, well, I heard a little bit of a debate on one of the podcasts I listened to about how many syllables are in the word orange.
Oh.
And I feel like when I say it, I don't know if mine has 2 or not. Like, I know I don't say it with the like New York, like orange or whatever. Maybe that's orange. I say like orange, which I guess is 2 syllables, but I slur them together. Let me hear you say it. What do you think before you say it?
I almost feel like it's 3. To be honest.
Oh, shit.
Because like
I was not prepared for 3.
Orange. Yeah.
Whoa.
Orange.
I didn't know 3 was on the table.
I feel like it's.
How
3.
are you with the rough thing?
Wait. Explain.
Roof.
Oh, it's a roof.
Roof. So I think I say roof, but I think I say roof. Does that make sense? How would I say? In my head, I think I say roof.
But in reality, the word
I say roof.
Yeah, it's roof. It's a roof.
Yeah. But if someone called it a
roof,
I would think like roof. One of the shows we watched has a scene where this lady comes out of like a coma-ish and she's trying to talk and she just goes ruh, ruh, ruh. And the other person's like ruh, ruh, ruh. And she's like, no, ruh, ruh, ruh. Well, she doesn't say no. And she goes, ruh, ruh, ruh. I don't know what ruh, ruh, ruh means. And it's literally the way we talk with Petra. Like we watched the scene. It was like, we had to rewind it and watch it again. And we're like, well, you're getting the movie reviews now. I will tell, you know what? Talk about the ruh later on.
All right.
So 3 syllables. Was not expecting that. That turned out to be way better than I thought. Thanks, Alan.
Absolutely.
It's all just to get us to our opening clip, which I'm so excited about. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Can you guess what do blind people and gay men have in common?
Oh.
And if you want the joke to work, you just say, I don't know, Dustin. What do
I don't know, Dustin. What do blind and gay men have in common?
We're blind. Of course we lick the rim to find the hole.
Wrong button.
Y'all let me in this damn house.
Should we hit record?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
All right, you ready?
I am ready. Are you recording?
Yes. All right. Well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken.
Ask your mama, she'll say the same thing. I got all the ways, I just ain't got the means.
Boom! To the Friday Headlines Roundup edition of Nut Taken, where every week, my good friend Alan wrangles up the headlines from all over the internet and we talk them at you. Because I listen to 13 hours of podcast a day, and Alan watches más o menos 3 hours of news. So you don't have to. And now, get ready to take a sledgehammer to the culture war echo chambers. Oh, but first, nice. That's a Willie Mays shot, Alan.
So, the Friday is upon us. What'll you be doing, Smithers? Something gay, no doubt. What? You know, lighthearted, fancy-free. Mothers, lock up your daughters. Smithers is on the town.
Exactly, sir.
Exactly, sir. Head
Exactly.
over to nonetakenpod.com. Join the Patreon. We got show's called None Taken, so we're just spitballing here. We got the takers level at $3. We got the givers / producers level at is it 8 or 9?
9. It's 9.
Okay, thanks, Alan. And for $18, you could be a Culture War veteran. We'll send you a shirt that says Culture War veteran. It's got the whole thing on it. One of these days, I'm going to get down to selling those patches. At least 10 of those are already sold to Greg. It's like, make them. I will give them to all my friends. Imagine if I had those ready for him when he. Oh, who the fuck's Greg?
Yeah. Who?
Certainly, there was no rush to him getting those. I was fine, right? This is.
I
still
think it's
all-
fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh God. Oh God. I don't want to lose a friendship that easily. No, that's not how that works. Yeah. So Culture War Veteran T-shirt. If you sign up at the $18 level, I'm just gonna give you a pause right now to go over and sign up at nonetakenpod.com. All right. Thank you. Come back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Very
And
much.
the guys are already here. You can deal with the pause. It's gonna put some more people in the group with us and make it a little bit more fun. Alan has a few more things to tell you, and then we're gonna get into our headlines.
Absolutely. So nonetakenpod.com also has our merch store. You can get some cool shit over there. You can get some hoodies, some t-shirts with None Taken logos, etc. And all the links, the socials, everything's there. Nonetakenpod.com has everything you need for chilling with None Taken. All right.
Yeah, or if you're it has everything you need for you to be hanging out with the boys.
Yeah. Edgy. Boys are edgy.
Yeah. I was
Everything.
looking at my hat in the show. Did I tell you I got this feather while we were in New York?
Oh, nice.
Did I tell you we went to a feather guy in the fashion district?
I didn't know there were
Yeah,
feather
there's-
guys.
Yeah, well, there's a whole fucking feather. Well, this guy's old school too. He is selling the business to his business partner's grandson. So you can imagine how long he's been selling feathers in New York City.
Wow.
Yeah. So he makes like feather boas and big old fans that so when he called, he's like, Chicago is touring in Korea. And the guy was like, one of the stands broke. He's like, in my career, I've only had one other break. Like, it's just unbelievable that happened. But of course, I got one for you. I'll send it right over. Like, he's that guy. Like, he had, there was 2 boas that Natasha really liked. Or no, I liked it. I was like, that one's, no, it's a different one. Yeah, Natasha really liked. She's like, and he's like, oh, well, that boa's, I can sell you this one, but not that one. The other 2 are leftovers from a Chicago act. I think I need to hold on to them. Something like that. Oh, the other one was Chicago. Anyways, you get my point. Like all the Broadway people that want to make really well-designed feather boas and stuff.
He's the guy.
Fans, yeah, he's a feather guy. And it's just
He
like
always-
tiny little room,
It always amazes me, these very niche
Niche.
retail businesses.
That's exactly what we're doing as a podcast, though.
I know, but
There's
there's
like 10 people on earth that can tolerate the way we listen to the news and consume it and regurgitate it, right?
yeah, it's true. It's true. I think there's a store in Berkeley that just sells buttons. And it's like,
How is that? You know what? I think the same thing every time I go past like a lamps
Right.
or
How do
whatever. I'm
you
like,
pay the rent?
the internet has all of these. I don't need to go to your store.
How do you pay rent selling buttons? I don't
Exactly. How do
understand.
you have multiple locations? You know?
Right.
But like that one, yeah, buttons galore or whatever.
right.
That
right.
sounds like a name, Buttons Galore.
It
Because
does.
there was that guy Button that signed Button Gwinnett signed the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, Button Gwinnett from Georgia. Yeah,
know
Button Gwinnett. Do you forget that every time I teach you that? I remind you
do.
that rather. Yeah, Button. There was a man named Button Gwinnett.
Button Gwinnett.
Yeah, I only know it because Mr. Show made fun of him. He goes, "Fuck you, Gwinnett." This is from a sketch on Mr. Show. This is our news roundup show. Why am I
just
wasting so much of your time?
Real
Yeah.
quick, let's not forget support the people that support us.
Slickest
SlickestDigital.com.
Slickest Digital for all your SEO and marketing needs. SlickestDigital.com.
Absolutely. Also, happy Friday, everybody. The weekend's here. Have a can of beer. Let's
I got
go.
one. I got
That
a
one.
green Sierra
Hell yeah, dude.
for my
Hell yeah.
hole.
Did you have to lick it to find it?
No, I can see. I'm fully abled
Okay.
for now.
For the moment.
We'll see how the show goes. Make myself blind.
Shall
Nobody
we
wants.
get it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Russia and North Korea signed a mutual defense agreement during President Putin's visit to Pyongyang, promising
Pyongyang. That's fun to say.
support if either faces aggression. They didn't really specify what aggression was.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
somebody in a group chat say it's like two drunk chicks going, and exactly. Like that's
Right.
what they're right? Like
Right.
exact. Would you fight if somebody fought? Exactly. Cheers. Let's get another round of Margs.
I don't know if you saw any of the pictures of this visit.
There are
but-
so many great pictures. You see them in the car together? The one in the
Yes.
car. Do you see them feeding dogs that are
Well-
in like a cartoonishly small pen?
I didn't see that.
There
but
was like two dogs inside of like, if it was like, it looks like a pop-up petting zoo.
That's funny. That's funny. The car that you mentioned was a gift from Putin to Kim. And there was pictures of like they have all these little kids like dressed in like
That thing
white.
definitely has spying things in it. Like,
Dude, it's
I'm sorry. He just gave him the car and it doesn't have listening devices. In
of course it does. Of course.
that
it
if you
does.
shine a laser at it, it activates it.
It was so wild. And they had this like lavish banquet. Meanwhile, like 85% of North Koreans are starving to death.
Yeah. Oh
It's-
yeah. There was that like Kremlin state media that was like, "This is clearly the land of freedom," and it shows like people forced to celebrate, and then
Right.
as the camera pans, there's a bunch of soldiers. Like, what are
Right.
they there for? Not certainly. Like, wow, that's weird that you need like a perimeter of security around
all the
this.
soldiers on their white horses, and then
Yeah,
everybody
that
just
too. Yeah,
goose stepping the whole thing.
yeah. It's just it. The clown emoji gets used by bad actors online way too
Sure.
much. But like,
Yeah.
it was such a clown emoji. Like the whole
Absolutely.
thing. And it's like, all right, going over to Vietnam. Great job, Vietnam. Like, honestly, great job, America, for letting Vietnam continue to think that, like, well, we're just we're unaligned. You know, we're just unaligned. We'll just see what this guy, because this. I didn't know that until we talked to Sino Talk on that episode. I
Mhm.
thought that he decided to go down to Vietnam after being. So he had the Vietnamese invitation. Stopped. He's like, well, I got to see my buddy Kim if I'm going to Vietnam.
Right. Right.
I already went around to China.
Already went around all the way.
Yeah. If I just went straight to Vietnam, it'd be one thing, but I went around.
I'm already almost there.
Fly over to Bad Korea. And not go in, yeah.
So some concern here is that the Russians will give North Korea technology to have satellites.
Shut
Uh,
up, Colin.
What?
You're like ranking things, and you're like, the concern is that the Russians will give the superior North Korean satellite technology to. Like, I know North Korea has like I'm not ignorant.
Well, the thing is, the rockets used for satellites can also be used as.
Yes,
uh,
but you're
rockets.
acting like Russia can't make a better version of that poorly.
No, Russia's giving it to North Korea.
Oh, I understand.
Other
That makes sense.
direction.
I thought you were saying that the concern is that now that they have a mutual defense security or agreement, that North Korea would, excuse me, Bad Korea would share that in the
No,
war.
no, it's the other way, other direction.
Okay. You know what? It's still another version of the same joke.
It's still the same thing.
Yeah.
It's still the same thing.
I mean, like, the threat from North Korea has materialized. Like, I know that it's not like, hey, tomorrow they're going to be in Los Angeles, but the threat of North Korea is outside of the bottle already. Like, it's only a
Sure.
matter of degree at this point. So it's like, okay, well, we should probably resolve that in a way where we don't get played again, like when Trump did it. And honestly, I blame Bolton on that, because Bolton was like, oh, what? This whole thing that we agreed on when we showed up here, we can't sign this. I thought you were going to agree to everything. It's like, and it was just walk away, like, which was clearly the plan of the whole point. They were like, let's just take him up to the, you know what? How do I keep getting off of the me and the boys are edging screen?
Me and the boys are edging.
He just got him right up to, and he's just like, yeah, but you know, we can't.
Pretty
I
much.
mean, there's a reason he sent John Bolton to do it, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, let's move on. You got
All right.
next.
The U.S. military conducted an airstrike in Syria that killed a top Islamic State leader. Did this happen this week?
Yeah.
I've been knee deep in work, man. Holy shit! Really?
June 18th.
No,
June
June
19th.
Tuesday.
Yesterday.
Juneteenth. That was
Yes.
yesterday. They
Yesterday.
did this on Juneteenth.
They did this on Juneteenth.
That's kind of insensitive. The U.S. military conducted an airstrike in Syria that killed a top ISIS leader with no indication of civilian casualties. Yeah, well, let's just wait for it. That's always the cover. Yeah. According to CENTCOM. So according to CENTCOM,
Yes.
to that's in Florida, isn't it?
I think so. So this actually happened on June 16th. The article I have was from June 19th. But yeah, so it was a guy named Usama Jamal Mohammed Ibrahim al-Janabi,
Something you don't want to say when you're on a commercial jet.
a senior ISIS official and facilitator. And so, yeah, they're claiming that they hit him with, like, I think, a drone strike, and there were
Drone strike. Hey, Tampa, Florida. I was right.
nice.
Strip clubs and sitcom.
I mean, those things kind of do go together, like peanut butter and jelly, right? There's-
Ladies, peanut butter and ladies.
Ah, okay.
Did I say strip club and sitcom?
Yeah, strip
That's the
clubs.
leader in the clubhouse. Keep talking, buddy. I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, they're good. So, I mean, the U.S. has killed a number of ISIS top leaders all over the world in the last few years. It's weird because we think of ISIS as sort of over and done with, but realistically, they are still out there.
Remember during COVID when they just let everybody out of the prisons?
Right. I do.
Yeah, I remember. Pepperidge Farm remembers. This is probably going to take a second to actually play, but let me hit share. And if we see the part, this is from whenever I say peanut butter and ladies, I feel like I need to make sure people know what I'm talking about.
Like that. Me and Ricky, since we're little kids, man. Yeah. We go together.
Together though.
We go together like cocaine
That
and
makes
ball.
sense.
No, like for instance, if I say peanut butter and
Ladies. Yeah, right?
There we go. I met David Keckner, that guy on the screen right now.
Yeah.
I met him in Hollywood the day I went skydiving.
No shit.
So I was like on cloud 9 for like the next like 48 hours, like
course,
at
yeah.
least 36. And then the serotonin.
Just the
crash.
dopamine, the serotonin,
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't like, come on, man. Like to this day, like I should get some snaps for saying David Keckner, right? Like,
Yeah.
He's known by his face and from his roles, right? Like
Yeah.
you see him, you're like, your name's Whammy from
Right.
from Anchorman.
Right.
So yeah, so I met that guy and I was like, oh, dude, I was at the Roosevelt Hotel. I was meeting somebody for a birthday party, and like there's a bar there. All I remember is getting old fashions there. I don't remember. The name of the bar. There's a bar at the Roosevelt Hotel at like the street level, and he was at their like downstairs at a gala or gala.
I say gala, but I'm not sure. I think you can say either way.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, after our pre-show, I think I need to be sensitive. Because listen, you know what? Don't subscribe and listen to the pre-show. Don't do it this week. Yeah, if we could limit.
No, do it.
that, if we could limit the people that heard the pre-show this week, I'd be pretty happy about that. Honestly, fucking Nameless dropped a grenade at the end of the show. I was like, I trust you. I totally trust you. Oh wow, bunch of words, and then I fell right for it. I was like, what about this word, Alan? And you're like, I wish you asked me like quietly first. All right. Anyway, made the whole Mexican space shuttle question look pretty tame. Which I understand. I can say that. Nobody got mad about that. So
No.
Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I met David Keckner, and I was like, "You're," and he took his head and drilled it into my head, and just ground it there. He's like,
Because you knew his name.
"No, just drunk." Guy is like, he was so drunk, so he was just like. I'm like, I don't remember your name. He's like, Whammy. I'm like, oh God, please leave me alone. I wish I never said hi to you. Like, which honestly, great story, very memorable.
Yes.
I wish most celebrities did that. I wish Bret Hart did that to me. That would have been great. Put me in a sharpshooter. Oh, can you imagine if Bret Hart put you in a sharpshooter?
Oh, that'd be wild.
I should have asked him for that. Damn it. That would have been a lot I asked him to do a show promo. He's like, look, man, if the amount of people that ask me to say things,
Right.
like, we can't say yes to everyone. I'm like, I feel bad that I asked. Honestly, when I talked about how awkward it was briefly meeting him, it was all because I dared ask that. And it's like, I wish I didn't do this, but I had to, right?
Remember that time you met Cuba Gooding Jr. and you were like, Snow Dogs is my favorite?
Right as the guy was taking the picture, I was like, can I get a picture with you? So you don't understand. We were in a private club. He was talking to someone. I had nothing to do. And I kept like inching closer, and he kept seeing me inch closer. And then finally I was like, can I get a picture with you? Interrupting his conversation. And as the camera's going, this was a real camera, because this was before people always had like camera
Right.
phones. He took it, and as the guy's taking the picture, I go, I loved you in Snow Dogs. And he just goes,
You can see his face in the picture. It's so funny. Like his brow just kind of furrows.
Oh, and then now he turned out to get canceled, and he's my favorite celebrity to get canceled because like he was, but I was wrong. I gotta say, I was wrong. It was a private place. Like, you're not supposed to be there if you don't have very expensive tickets. And somebody made the mistake of giving my friend tickets. Hi, Christian. Listens to the show, actually. And somebody else was there that night. And I was like, well, I don't want to bother him. It's Wayne Gretzky. He was right there. I could have talked to either of them. I was like, well, I won't bother Wayne Gretzky.
That's wild.
I'll fuck this guy over here. Love you and Snow Dogs. I'm gonna write down I loved you and Snow Dogs. You want to do the next headline?
Yeah, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry signed a bill requiring the 10 Commandments
Come on.
to be displayed in public school classrooms by January 1st, making the state the first to institute such a requirement. So Oklahoma,
There's no way that's not getting overturned.
oh, it's going to be litigated for sure. Oklahoma and Texas, and I think maybe Arkansas. I'm not sure about Arkansas. Definitely Oklahoma and Texas have tried to do this before, and it's just never gotten past the legislature or the governor.
Louisiana's fucking like riding that edge, man.
Me and the boys are edgy.
Like they were doing everything with abortion. I think they made a bold IVF statement, if I'm not wrong. They keep doing shit. Like, they're going to be one of the first to like they're just going to try out repealing the 19th Amendment.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So they're poster size versions of the 10 Commandments. It's not being paid for by tax funds. It's actually they have to be
Are they
donated.
allowing it or mandating it?
They're requiring it.
That's my problem. Like, I have no problem with. Well, I do have a
Allowing.
problem with allowing it. But
I also have a problem with allowing.
yeah, but I'm more passive towards allowing it. Like,
So-
if this whole headline happened and we all got upset and we're like, allow, but require.
Yeah. So
They're going to have the Trump Bibles in there soon.
No, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's going to be like those workplace. There's a whole industry for it now, right? Well, how like you need those workplace posters about
yeah,
like OSHA and are you getting the proper time off? Call this number. There's a whole industry to buy those, right? Once we LLC'd, they were like, "Do you need these?" I'm like, "No, I don't know why we actually did this." Actually,
yeah, and actually, you get them you get new ones like every year because something changes.
I only
They'll have,
LLC'd in case we do something really dumb like our pre-show.
So yeah, those posters will have like the minimum wage on it, your labor rights, all that kind of stuff. And they do change. So there's a whole industry that just does that. They send you the
Well, luckily, this one hasn't changed for like 6,000 years.
That's true.
4,000. How old was Methuselah? Like 900.
Yeah, sounds right.
Track that from 6. Put a couple more lifespans in there. Probably like 4,000, right?
At 4,000 seems good.
Okay, all right. Louisiana. No, your turn. Wait, no.
Your
The
turn.
White House unveiled a policy that will allow spouses of U.S. citizens. I don't know if you looked through all in other news, but it appears that can be abbreviated, perhaps. The White House unveiled a policy that will allow spouses of U.S. citizens so if the spouse doesn't have legal status, right?
Right.
To apply for citizenship without leaving the U.S. They don't have to leave and come back. If they have lived in the country for over 10 years, this will affect 500,000 people, or if you are susceptible to right-wing media, 500,000 people. Scarier, right? Scarier. Biden is scared. It's a way bigger than 500,000. Biden is set to highlight the policy. How many people died from COVID? How many people Trump killed from COVID? See, same question, very different. Biden is set to highlight the policy later today. This is from at least yesterday, perhaps the day before. The note on this that is worthwhile is that was a fact. The people that 500,000 describes are up to yesterday.
Mhm.
That tomorrow, after hearing this news.
Sorry, you froze. I didn't get that last.
As I said, Moose out front should have told you park's closed. If you try to do this the day after, all of this has to do with people that were already in the queue. You don't get to hear this news and go sign up, right? Which I feel like when people hear the 500,000 number, they think like, see, people are going to go do that tomorrow.
But it's people who were already in the system.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean,
Which I've lived here for 10 years, which means like, God damn, I would say without much hesitancy, most of them, right? A majority of those
Sure.
people, which means they've probably had a job, is what I was trying to say. They've been paying taxes and getting nothing but perhaps healthcare out of it. Yeah, these are people that have wanted to be here. They've managed to be here for 10 years and not get locked up and deported. Because if they did anything, they would have been caught for, I mean, I'm speaking from experience. I don't care to get into, but somebody I was close to, their dad was something in that category, got a DUI, and the whole thing was about deporting him.
Deporting.
Yeah. And I'm actually happy for him because that family deserves to have their dad not live in another country.
Yeah, it sucks. I was actually a little bit surprised that this wasn't already a thing. There was actually one of the people who was there at the signing.
Everybody thought it was, right? Everybody asked like, "Oh, you can marry someone the next day, you get this." No, it's a process still.
It's a process, yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be Australian.
There was like an assistant DA from Senegal, I want to say, whose wife falls into this category, and he was like, "This is a whole game changer." So we have what Biden did last week on the border as far as limiting crossings and essentially shutting the border down after a certain number of people come through, and that upset a lot of people on the left, a more progressive side of the Democratic Party.
Do you want to talk about what was in other news? Did you see that? Like, does it fit better? Just talk about it here.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Did you not look at it? Do you wing that? Like, do you wing that and comment off of it after like just opening it in the middle of the show? So this is like a week and a half old, and I included it in the other news because I was like, I feel like it fell off the news cycle immediately.
It kind of did. It kind of did. I did read this article, but I forgot about it. So
it was a little too far.
No. so there are people who are saying like this is just his attempt to sort of course correct and placate that wing of the party. And
nobody knows what you just read. So like a week before this statement, he was like, immigrants go stay in Mexico, everything Trump wanted, right? Except it was with caveats, right? It was like, we will only implement the most strict border policies that look exactly like Trump's after there's certain metrics. Whereas Trump's was like, starting now and for the next 90 days, and we'll see about renewing this, we're shutting down the border for people that are trying to cross this way, right? Like, I do think that there is a distinction within, there is a difference to that distinction, or whatever the inverse of that phrase is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, people say it was just like Trump's border policy, and I think that there is a difference to it. I think the fact that Trump's was just a blanket statement and Biden's is, we're going to insist that people remain in Mexico if they're here from a third party or third country. And you, by the way, use this app that sucks. And you have to go into that country and apply via the app. However, the strictest restrictions of this policy don't take place until there's a certain number of days in a row of a threshold
number of people
crossing. Right. So it's like, once this is a big problem, we will put in these things and then we'll release it back to what we think is the manageable thing for because right now it's very low. Now it's very low. Turns out it's hot as fuck. Maybe not the best time to cross the desert. Right. Yeah. Weird that this comes up like October, November, like fall and winter. Right. That's when it spikes.
That's when it spikes.
Yeah. That's when we are.
Because you're not dying from dehydration in the desert.
But from the time we vote to the time they put the president in office, it's all the big numbers, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think that the biggest part of that bill or executive order is
the second one or the first one.
The second one is the ability to not have to leave the country and come back. That was kind of the big thing, because that was always a thing you had to do. And now they're saying, no, you can stay in place and go through the process. You don't have to leave. And that's a really big deal for families.
Yeah, of course.
That are impacted by this.
Yeah. Which is, but they're like, well, we caught you. You're not supposed to be here, But wait, are you saying that assistant DA has an illegal wife?
Essentially, yes. Yes.
This is elected official or appointed?
I think appointed.
Oh.
Because not the DA, is assistant DA. So that would just be hired. Right?
Yeah, that's a lot of voting. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I will say about the first bill that Biden voted with restrictions on the border.
Yes.
Bold statement. It's going to lead to an increase in two things: unaccompanied minors and people claiming to have been human trafficked. Because why?
Because that
Those are exceptions.
breaks the yeah, it's a circuit breaker. It's kind of like goes around the system. Yeah.
Border, that if you claim while you're caught on the border that you were an unaccompanied minor, or if you show up as an unaccompanied minor, or you claim that you were being trafficked, that's an exception to the shutting down.
It short circuits the system, is what I
Yeah.
meant to say. Yes.
So we're going to see more of that, right? It's the
Sure.
Cobra problem type thing.
Mhm.
Is this a bad time for a just asking question?
No, do it.
Okay, it's a thought experiment for you. What do you think would be easier to do? Build an effective wall around the border of the United States, or set up a wall around the welfare state? Because smarty pants are always like, well, you can't have open borders in a welfare state. It's like that heuristically sounds true. I actually bet that we can be good enough to do both. I don't really like the idea of a welfare state in the sense of how most of those people use that as a pejorative, but being charitable and taking this into consideration, like in a real battery shark sense, what sounds more realistic? To be able to build a wall, an effective one that will do anything, right?
Yeah.
That's not susceptible to ladders and tunnels. Or build a wall around the welfare state.
I mean, obviously, it's the second one. Building a physical wall is stupid on many levels, and geographically, there almost already is a wall on much of our border, just based on deserts and rivers, and oceans. But yeah, that's just a stupid idea to build a wall. It always was.
Yeah, always was.
Always was.
Always was.
All right.
I tend to think that we won't, but we could put effective barriers around the things we're worried these Mexicans are going to come here and take from us. And they're not Mexicans. They're
I was going to say they're not even Mexicans.
No, they've had a negative migration for like 12 years.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll leave it. All right. Let's move on.
Wait, hold on. Biden knows that both of these are getting struck down by the court. But definitely the first one. They didn't let Trump do it. This is simply.
No.
Yeah. They're like, no,
probably.
you don't have the authority to do that. But it's him showing that, okay, Republicans won't let this get through when we legislatively attempt it. Therefore, I'll make these statements. That was my argument when I didn't like that he was doing things the same way as Trump. It's like, we fucking voted against this because we didn't like executive orders. And it was like an executive proclamation, by the way. It wasn't an executive order. Did you know that? The whole border thing, it wasn't an executive order. It was like it was a third thing. Not legislative. So it's totally fine. Yeah. He was on vacation. It doesn't count, Alan.
Right. Totally doesn't count.
All right. Your turn.
All right. The U.S. reiterated its obligation by treaty to defend the Philippines.
You guys got to listen to the episode with Sinotalk. We
was gonna
covered
say,
this.
After a clash between Chinese and Filipino forces in the South China Sea. So yeah, we definitely covered this with Sino. So this is that ship that's running around on the second Thomas Shoal, which is sort of contested territory, although by international law it is a property of the Philippines. So they're resupplying it, and Chinese vessels intercepted the boats that were going there. They were right alongside the boats, like you could reach out and touch somebody.
Maybe put your thumb in between it.
Right. Yeah, a guy lost his thumb on the Philippine side. They essentially looted much of the supplies that were on the boats that were being delivered, so guns and other things. And so the concern here is
boarded their ship and turned it on out, as the Beastie Boys once said in Rhyming and Stealing.
They did. So obviously the concern here is that because of our partnership with the Philippines, this could escalate into a U.S.-China war, which
we promised them.
We did. And I asked Sino even, like, why don't we park a carrier out there to keep this from happening, like we did with.
You know what we should do? I wanted to say this on that show. We should park a carrier just outside where their diesel-powered carriers can go. We should be like, we don't want to interfere. We're just going to be 1,000 kilometers. So go ahead and refuel.
Yeah. just with
fucking joke fleet.
A couple 100 feet outside of arm's length.
We'll be out here with our nuclear carriers that's like old as fuck. We'll be out here with old technology nuke carriers. And you can keep using your diesel powered bullshit.
Yeah, they even So some of the boats that were being used to drop these supplies off were these rigid, like, um,
Do you ever say
inflatable.
something and just know Greg's going to be like, "Look, there actually is a benefit to the diesel power," and if you, like,
Yes,
Greg's a cool guy. We should talk about him more.
we should. We
Yeah.
should. We should have him on the show sometime.
Yeah. Who do you think I'm talking about?
Greg.
Oh yeah, Greg. Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else on that one, or you want
No, I just feel like I should edit the video now.
to?
Go ahead.
You-
Do I
it's yours.
talk?
Yes.
Surgeon General?
Yes.
Surgeon General Vivek Ramaswamy. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy urged Congress to. Is Surgeon General? It's the Deputy Surgeon General? It's the trans woman, right?
Yes.
Okay. I picture the trans woman when I say Vivek Murphy, and the skin tone doesn't match in my head. Like if we're playing Clue, I would have folded other people down. That's not racist. I just misunderstood what was the input. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy urged Congress to require tobacco-like warning labels on social media platforms over youth mental health concerns. You know what? I blame that guy that keeps talking. A lot of that data turns out to not be as reliable as was initially believed.
As far as teen mental health, girls,
Yeah, especially women.
specifically. Yeah. So there's a lot of initiatives. I think
We call them
Gavin.
girls when they're teens.
I think Gavin Newsom.
I'm like fucking forehead and hair enthusiast over here calling teens women. What's that guy? Culture warrior, Matt Gaetz.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna shut up for a minute.
So I think Gavin Newsom is also trying to sign some similar legislation here in California about not allowing like phones in schools. The guy you're talking about, whose name escapes me, he has like this. He's like, I think it's 3 steps. Don't give a kid a smartphone before
Yeah.
9th grade. Don't allow phones in schools. I can't remember what the third one is. But yeah, I mean, so there is conflicting evidence as to whether or not, or how much harm is being inflicted on kids because of their access to social media. I do personally think that there is an issue here. I do think that kids are more anxious and more depressed and all those things in part because of their access to social media. I don't think fucking tobacco-like warnings work.
No, yeah, exactly.
I
I mean,
remember
the ones in Europe don't work, and they're like graphic.
I remember when
Or Canada.
they started putting parental advisory stickers on CDs back in
Yeah,
the day.
you're like, those are the good ones.
That's the one I want, right?
Yeah.
Like you go to
ever
Walmart.
fuck up and you're like, when you download songs, the explicit one in my
Right.
head was like censored. So I was like, well, I don't want to buy that one. And 99 cents a mistake. You learn
Right.
that one quick. But yeah, I wouldn't buy the explicit one thinking that that's the censored one
That's yeah.
because it has been censored, but it
Right.
hasn't. The song itself wasn't.
I mean, like back in the day, I
No,
remember like
it's not.
if you bought a CD at Walmart, it would be like
Mhm.
the clean version. They
Right.
wouldn't sell any of the explicit versions.
Right.
And if you didn't know that, you'd take that home and you're like, what is this? This isn't the song I wanted. So yeah, I don't think those warning labels work at all. I do think there is some realistic problems with social media and youths. But I don't think a warning label is gonna do a goddamn thing.
Yeah. Google used to be so good. I don't know what to type in. to
It's
find that
annoying
test.
now.
It sucks now.
Yeah. I
Like
agree.
I typed in author, teen girl mental health social media. Like that should bring up
That
the
should do
guy
it.
we're thinking of. Yeah, it's like NPR. Our screens causing it. Just fuck off. Man, I had a million other thoughts I almost interrupted with, but I promised to give you 60 seconds.
All right. Shall we move on?
Your turn.
Prime Minister Netanyahu disbanded Israel's war cabinet after centrist Benny Gantz departed the decision-making
He
body.
did it. He said he'd give him 30 days, and he did it.
Yeah. So Benny Gantz, sort of the opposition, he joined up with this. I think it was like 6 or 9 people on this in this cabinet. I didn't even think of that when I was saying this. So he said, "Look, you don't have any there's no end game to this war. I don't want to be a part of this anymore," and he bailed. Now, all Netanyahu did was like say, "Okay, fine, take your ball
I
and
can
go
do
home."
this unilaterally now,
Yeah.
right? Like that's
Well,
basically what
so
it means, right?
there is
He
still
doesn't
a
have. He's not forced to make a new one, right?
no. So there's a security cabinet which was above this cabinet already.
And
So
this
when
was created after October 7th, right? Like
yeah,
this was a thing. So they kind of dissolved something that was new.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was immediately after October 7th happened that this panel was formed. And so Netanyahu said, all right, well, if you're leaving, then that's no longer effective. We'll just let the regular Security Council handle this. And that's what they're doing.
Readers, I'm going home.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Checks out.
All right, you want to hit the next one?
Yeah. Israeli military instituted a daily 11-hour tactical pause along a key 7.5 mile stretch of the road in southern Gaza to increase the flow of humanitarian aids. No aid.
No, aid. No,
It
no.
would be
S.
HIV anyways.
Yes. So as of right now, something like I think it's less than 100 trucks have been getting through of aid. Prior to the lockdown, it was like 500 trucks a day. We know the pier is pretty much useless that they
More of a
built.
dock, Alan.
More of a dock, yes. And
Me and the boys are docking.
dock.
Please go on. I'm sorry. James, don't.
What?
Nothing. He's gonna fix it with that.
Okay, can we get a graphic designer to make a shirt?
Yeah, it'd be like two boats parking next to each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
Probably,
That-
right?
That'd be great.
Hopefully. Jesus.
There's
Go
lots-
on. I'm sorry.
I'm completely derailed.
It's such a long show. I told Natasha we'd have dinner at 9:30.
All right. Well, I don't really have much else to say, so let's just
Oh,
move on to the
okay.
next one.
Okay, it isn't even a long show.
No. I think it's me. The U.S. military reportedly. Oh, this is the one.
Okay.
The U.S. military reportedly ran a secret campaign to discredit China's COVID-19 vaccine in the Philippines during the pandemic, per a Reuters investigation.
Do you remember that time during the pandemic where the Philippines were like, why is nobody taking the fucking vax?
Right.
They
So-
literally like MAGA'd them.
Yeah,
They were like, I don't trust this. And then they were like, we'll take this one. Because they even did that, right? The whole point was to corral them into the non-Chinese vax that didn't work, right?
Right.
And they were like, well, I don't know if I trust any of these now. Maybe you shouldn't have introduced doubt. CIA, who?
CIA. Yeah. So essentially, they created like, I want to say 200 different Twitter accounts and just essentially spread anti-vax misinformation in Tagalog, targeting the Philippines.
The word Tagalog always sounds wrong when people say it.
It does.
Like into where? Galag?
Tagalog.
I also remember the first time somebody, so you remember like reading the daily announcements in class? Like they would give every class like or maybe it was once a week, and like they'd pass the thing around the room and you'd read like, was that not a thing?
No, I don't remember this.
We'd do that in high school. We had a lot of Filipinos in our school, so there was like a Tagalog group, and somebody was like Tagalog. I was like, oh boy. I remember thinking that the first time I saw it too. But like, oh boy, like these are like a lot of your friends, and you just never heard that word before. Like canceled, like 1998 canceled.
Just thought they were Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is wild that our government engaged in anti-vax propaganda to essentially they wanted to.
Is it unbelievable?
It's not I take your point, but it still is a bit mind-blowing. I really hadn't heard that much about this story. I feel like it's been very underreported.
Yeah, I'm glad you kept it in. I saw it in the middle of my honeymoon, not a honeymoon. And then I heard it on one of my podcasts I listened to that's like, these stories are kind of underreported. And I didn't hear it anywhere else.
I didn't hear it on like CNN or any of the cable channels I watch.
3 hours of cable news a day.
Right.
Thank God it was 13 hours of podcast, Alan.
You got the scoop.
Yeah.
No, this was pretty wild. Now, so they're saying that they weren't attempting to influence any Americans because that would be illegal for them to do. But
so it's just Filipinos.
It's just Filipinos. It's within their rights.
By the way, can anyone explain to me why it's PH when it's Philippines, but it's F when it's Filipino?
I don't know that either.
All right, fine. Well, I was asking the audience.
Right.
I could just ask people I know.
I think it must be like that's got to be like an English thing. Like that's
Yeah.
They probably all say it with whatever letters they.
It's easier. Just make an F.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. More thoughts?
No, I was going to do the next headline if you're good with
Okay,
that.
go for it. Yeah.
A federal judge ordered the liquidation of Alex Jones' personal assets to pay $1.5 billion in damages for defaming Sandy Hook victim families, although his InfoWars media platform will not be liquidated at this point.
Frog protection.
We got other Alex clips.
Turns the frickin' birds gay.
Let's rape possums. I'm a human, and I'm coming. Let's cram earthworms up our area. I never sucked any ding-dongs.
Okay, I'm out. That was all of them.
So I think I've talked about it previously on the show, but Alex Jones over the last week and a half, 2 weeks has been very much like in panic mode, I would say, on the show, where he's like, we're going to get shut down. They're going to lock the doors.
Going through a traumatic event.
Well, he's playing it up for the audience.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
And, you know, so he's had all these, you know, luminaries of the alt-right on his show. And, you know, saying, look, they're going to shut us down, but don't worry, we'll recover. He's trying to move all of his revenue streams to his father's company so that the bankruptcy court doesn't have access to it. It's a whole thing. So actually this ruling by the federal judge is a bit anticlimactic because it's just his personal assets currently that are being liquidated. So nothing about his broadcast stuff is being touched yet. So it's not like
personal assets were 1.5 billion.
He doesn't have that much in personal assets, but they're liquidating what he does have.
To get the penalty of 1.5 billion.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean,
I don't want to rehash a feeling I expressed recently. I forgot when I reacted in that one show and I put it up in one of our reels the last time we talked about this.
Oh yeah.
I forgot that was like about us talking about the news about that breaking, and I didn't click for me that people that were upset that happened to him would start sharing that video, and that happened. And then I got a bunch of like angry stuff, and I was like, you guys get a hold of yourself. Like,
I didn't know any of that.
Why are you like willing to like get mad with people online about this guy? Like, because you know, even Cody, not that he's one of the people I just described. Right. Cody will say on the show, he'll be like, another time Alex Jones was right. Like, I totally get that, but he's only gets that because he's willing to say these things that are like crazy and then also likely to not happen. And if you frame that, hey, there's this scary thing in a way that sounds like if we all do this, it won't happen, but you knew that it was implied, you like, that's a whole magic trick. So you get to say something was real when nothing was going to happen, because much more likely than any of that, this thing was outlandish and unlikely to ever become anything. And, you know, and then if he says that all the time, and then the really bad thing happens, like say bird flu pops off, people, well, Alex Jones was right about bird flu, you know, like, we don't do that. Like I talked about it 6 months ago or whatever. I add a month to it every time we bring it up. But, like,
yeah, it's true. I mean, so given what Alex Jones did in regards to this Sandy Hook tragedy, I think he deserves every ounce of this penalty. And I am completely fine.
I think it's horrible what he did to those families.
It's awful. It's awful.
It's unconscionable. It really is. Like, aside from how you feel about him in any other way, like, just nobody's like choosing to go after him for no fucking reason. Like, he ruined people's lives. This number is absurd. 1.5 billion.
It's a big number. However, what he did was absolutely just appalling and atrocious. I don't know any other adjectives I can.
And like the thing I hate about it is he played off things that I'm sympathetic towards. Like, yeah, I don't like government overreach. I don't like maybe the types of gun laws that are being proposed. I don't weaponize that and say this whole thing was made up and that
Atlanta didn't never burn.
Atlanta was a false flag operation.
It's been a while.
And Abraham Lincoln was a crisis actor.
Oh, there we go.
It's been a while. All right, moving on. The Supreme Court struck down 6-3 a federal ban on bump stocks, which allows semi-automatic rifles to fire more rapidly. The Trump administration issued the ban after the 2017 Las Vegas massacre. So I don't have a lot to say about this. I think that this is a bad move.
Really?
Personally. Yeah, I do. I would agree. I agree with the legislation that was previously in place. I'm sure there's disagreement.
Well, I mean, I think it's a logical. So did you like read through their way of coming to their conclusion?
I did not on this one. I did not.
So I understand coming to your opinion.
Yeah. Just based on the headline, essentially.
forgive me, because I know it's not how you operate,
Mhm.
emotionally. Like that's an emotional thing to agree with. Like
Sure.
it's,
Okay.
or I said it earlier as a heuristic. It's like, yeah, like if we're saying machine guns are banned, having a way of modifying this that guys, I'm about to say a million things that are on your side. Don't attack me for the next sentence. Being able to modify it so that it's effectively like a machine gun in terms of its fire rate. Jesus, I can imagine. I imagine everything you're gonna say, guys. Shut up. Listen to the rest of it. It like I get it. If we're saying this type of gun should be illegal, changing a legal gun into a way where they can be fired at a similar rate
Mhm.
of what we're trying to already agree on being illegal. I get if that's your mindset, I totally understand that. What they looked at was the word basically describes you need a gun, you need to pull the trigger every time you're firing it. And if this sleight of hand creates a condition where your finger is pulling the trigger and then what they decided was, well, let's come to the bottom of what let's come on the bottom of what
Isolate that.
we can define as a trigger pull. And I think you would lose arguing that you're still pulling the trigger every time it's happening. Perhaps they can reword the bump stock ban or the language that they were using to determine what a trigger pull is into a firing of the machine of the weapon within a certain time. But their job isn't to legislate. So their job is to say, well, legislature says pulling the trigger at a certain rate or in a certain manner. And if all you're doing is pulling the trigger consistently and you've done something to make that happen faster, we're not going to rewrite the law they wrote.
Okay.
We're going to say you don't get to ban this because
That law is not constitutional.
Yeah, or because they're still pulling the trigger every time.
Okay.
So if they could create that part that was about the trigger pull into the firing of the weapon, and everybody can agree on that, that would not. There would be,
essentially like a rounds per minute kind of thing, as
yeah, essentially, yeah. Also, who banned this?
Donald Trump
And who overturned it?
His own Supreme Court.
Who overturned it?
The Supreme Court.
Joe Biden, Alan.
Oh, Joe Biden.
Yeah, and who got Roe versus Wade overturned? Joe Biden, Catholic in charge. Yeah. All right.
All right, let's move on to some econ stuff. Let's hit
a congressional budget office raised the congressional budget office
CBO, yes,
raised its 2024 federal budget deficit. Oh boy, they already had a projected deficit. Oops. Yes. They're like, just in case you weren't, we need to increase it 27% from 1.5 trillion to 1.9 trillion. Did they change? Oh, they earlier made that estimate a long time ago, February.
Right. So essentially, they're saying that what increased this deficit was funding for Ukraine and Israel, and then the student loan payoffs.
What caused it?
So primarily providing military aid to Ukraine and Israel, and then reducing the student loans, like limiting all those loans.
Oh, well, if you add up the student loans, I feel like it was a few billion at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it $1 trillion? It wasn't, right?
No, it was not.
Okay. So why is it going up $500 billion? I guess a lot of money, Ukraine
and Israel both.
Okay.
So this was a number that
there's a lot of things that don't show up in the dollars for Israel. We just find out.
Right. This was a paragraph that kind of surprised me, which I'll read to you.
Okay.
The report also projects that the nation's publicly held debt is set to increase from 99% of GDP at the end of 2024 to, what do you think it will be in 10 years?
130%.
122%.
Yeah.
The highest level ever recorded.
No, this is so fucking unsustainable, and we just like refuse to face reality about it.
122% of GDP is like,
that's a real deficit. Like yeah.
I mean, that's just
I'm living in the world where I know that we're so fucked up, and like that's why I'm like, people are like, they'll never repeal what do you call that? Social Security. It's like, oh, it can't pay for itself. Like, you just think you can keep this going, but yeah.
It's funny. I'll talk about it in media. I'll talk about it in media, but I read that book you recommended, The Hero of Two Worlds, and one of the reasons that
Dude,
the French
French
government
Revolution
collapsed,
happened was because
they just spent money like, it's never ending.
there was the one guy in charge that was like, guys, we can't afford to
We
do
don't have any money.
Yeah.
And then they came together like, well, we're not going to have taxes,
yeah,
not on wealthy people. Fuck that
Yeah.
shit.
yeah. Piss them all off.
Yeah. All right. Wells Fargo fired over a dozen workers for allegedly pretending to work when they were not, including simulating keyboard activity.
A dozen.
Yeah. I just
Why
include
is
this.
this a headline?
I include this because I think it's funny.
Yeah, but this got brought to us by our news
Yeah,
service.
our news
They're like
service.
7 or 8 things happened yesterday. Okay, number 1, Wells Fargo fired more than 12 people.
Right. I just think it's funny because Wells Fargo, if you followed them for the last, like, I don't know, 20, 30 years, they've
Scumbag.
stepped in it so many times.
So
I
many.
remember
Every fucking rake.
I remember when I think I was like 19 years old, and yeah, that sounds right. And one of my, like a colleague of mine approached me and he was like, hey man, my girlfriend works at Wells Fargo. She's trying to sign people up for credit cards.
Ah,
He goes, you're a student, right? And I go, yeah, sure. And I wasn't. And he goes, he's like, all right, well, fill out this form. I'll get you a card. And I was like, okay. So I got a student like MasterCard from Wells Fargo
Yeah.
while not being a student. And I didn't
Yeah.
have to provide any proof that I was a student to
all
get
they
it.
had was see how many we'll have
Right.
a contest about who can have the most credit card signups.
It was a whole thing. And
It was like every branch had like who can sign up the most people on a credit card, basically,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Also just opening bank accounts for no reason. Like it was just a whole thing.
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
the sleaziest bank possibly
Which,
ever.
by the way, costs you to do
Right.
Like, okay, but it didn't matter because they had metrics that people were chasing, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which you see in other industries as well. But
Yeah, I know. It's not supposed to fucking bank. Like, hi, I'm a serious place. Trust your money here. It's way better than a mattress. Like yeah, you get the exact same thing at Target.
Target, Kohl's,
how many
all of
people
them.
sign up for the Target credit card? Yeah.
Yep. And actually, those cashiers in most of those places are, that's part of their review essentially, is
Right.
how well they sell those cards to
Yep.
customers, which
Yep.
is wild.
Yep.
Which is why when you go to Kohl's or Target, they try hard,
Exactly.
which is annoying.
Yep.
All right, let's move on.
The Federal Reserve held its benchmark interest rate steady at a target rate of 5.25 to 550 and signaled it expects one cut before the end of this year. I was listening to that venture capitalist podcast and they were all like, we went from 7 expected cuts this year to maybe 1. It's like, you know what? You act like that's so crippling. Like once there's one cut, I get that it's bad. I do get it. It's bad. Wall Street has responded to it in a sense to the realization that they weren't going to get the cuts that they had hoped for. But I think to the average person, which is more than you elitist fucks, I think they're going to be like, whoa, that's a good sign. They kept raising this. Dropping it means something, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. So as you already have stated, yeah, we anticipated a lot more cuts than we actually got, but because of the way the inflation is sort of,
If you talk to someone 1 year ago, they were like, people on the edge of it, like us, me and the boys, were like, I know it sounds absurd, but I think within the next year we're going to start seeing cuts.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have believed it a year ago.
True. All right. In related news, the producer price index fell 0.2% in May, below expectations of a 0.1% increase. The wholesale inflation index is up 2.2% on an annual basis. So these are the inputs to the economy. And so having it fall 0.2% versus expectation of a rise of 0.1 is actually good news as far as where the economy's at and for inflation.
Okay.
But we keep seeing these mixed signals from these reports, and obviously this could be revised in a month and it could be flat or whatever.
Sure.
But this seems to be good news.
Well, I mean, it's closer to the good numbers that you'd expect to see somewhat, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There is a baseline number that I have a problem with because fucking Central Bank of New Zealand invented
the
it
2%
in the 1990s
number,
or something. Yeah. But that's more for CPI, but still, regardless. Okay.
All right, let's get into other news. So this first one you put in here, workers at TJ Maxx and Marshalls are wearing police-like body cameras. So yeah, so essentially the article talks about um, the use of these body cams on loss prevention personnel
So it's
stationed
not
mostly-
like every cashier.
no.
Is it problematic assistant managers? Because I think this could be like, you know, when you think of police body cams, it's like it's intended for when they kill black people accidentally, but it also catches them when they fuck some chick in the back of their patrol car, right? Like I feel like this is going to help with the HR situation quite a bit. Like, you know, yeah, there was a manager I'm thinking of that like showed his dick to some cashier in the
Oh,
like,
jeez.
like in the money room, and it was just like, what is wrong with you? I don't remember his name. I probably shouldn't say it if I think of it.
Oh man, you just brought a story back to me.
Dude, I mean, come on. Like, we worked there. Like, it was just so many guys were just like, like when Me Too happened, it's like, I'm not surprised. I saw this in retail. Like, these people have power. Like,
Yeah, pretty gross stuff. All right, so essentially what they're doing. So for people that don't know, the loss prevention people that you see at the front of the store are just there to be a presence. They don't actually do anything.
right.
They're not allowed, typically, most of the time, they're not even allowed to stop a shoplifter or attempt to grab merchandise as they run out the door.
Yeah.
So this is just another thing they're trying to do. So they've already started having them wear like more tactical gear to make them appear more like a police,
God.
which is stupid. And then the body cam is supposed to make people self-conscious about what they're doing and how they're interacting because they can see themselves doing it.
Yeah. Right.
Most of research about this says that doesn't really
No.
move the needle in any direction at all. I go to stores around here in the Bay Area where there's a lot of theft, and it's like they got fucking deodorant and toothpaste behind a glass case, and I'm like, this is fucking like, why?
You're getting in the way of me buying things.
Right, and you gotta push a button and
Yeah.
wait. Hopefully,
Yeah. And
somebody
like,
shows
we've
up.
been the person that hears the button. I
Right,
know
right.
that guy's not in any hurry or concern.
No,
to get- He's
no.
annoyed that his day, he can't just let people buy toothpaste.
Right.
He has to get
There-
involved twice.
There's an old joke, not really a joke, but in retail where loss prevention is called sales prevention.
Yeah.
Have you heard this before?
No, but it's, I mean, makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, I mean, I understand. You know, I'm aware of stores that did like maybe $20 million in sales a year and lost like $3 million gross in theft, which is a lot of shit to lose. And so, you know, sometimes stores like that, there's not enough margins to cover that, and they end up shutting them down. It is a problem, but this isn't the solution, I guess, would be my.
Yeah, I don't think so. And the thing that'll come from this is the funny stuff, like whatever those those cameras. end
Right.
up- Yeah.
And by the way, most stores already have
By
a
the way-
shit ton of cameras. So as far as trying to investigate an incident or whatever, this
Yeah.
isn't particularly useful.
Not gonna debt.
Right. All right. You have okay. So can't skip.
I found that I've been on my phone this whole time because I've been looking for this picture of me and Cuba Gooding Jr. You
Oh,
can't see it.
I can see it. I was wondering what you were doing.
Yeah, it's too bright on the Ring camera.
It's too bright. Yeah.
Those are two white people.
All right. I put this one here. Darfur famine. I think this is kind of an underreported story as well. Although I think The Economist had a episode about it maybe last week called like the Forgotten War.
Yeah.
So essentially, it looks like the RSF is sort of making gains, and the Sudan proper military is losing ground. The concern is that a lot of these guys who are in the RSF previously were part of the genocidal action that took place in Darfur, whatever, a decade or two ago. And we're
Was that
seeing
1990?
no, I think it
I'm
was
joking. We did this callback
Right.
earlier. Yeah.
So and the concerns we're already starting to see like similar types.
Just can I talk to you in the kitchen real quick?
Yeah.
Is that Hotel Rwanda?
That's Hotel Rwanda.
Oh, that's Hotel Rwanda.
Wait, is this no, this is
No, when they did that back in the day, that's somewhere else.
that's somewhere else. That's somewhere else.
You let me say that. I trusted you.
I thought you meant the 90s.
Yeah.
That's totally what you meant.
That's what I meant.
All right, so we're already starting to see like similar atrocities being committed, where it looks like we're approaching a genocide here as well. And then um, the lack of food here is just really horrific. I'm seeing
And the knock-on effects, right? Because like lack of food, lack of agriculture that's going to come from all of it, right?
right.
And then the fact that like neighboring areas are suffering from it, right?
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
they export and
Yeah. So I'm seeing numbers like estimates of 1.5 to 1.7 to over 2 million people potentially starving to death in this area, which is absolutely insane.
now what is that in Palestinians? I need to find a way to care about it, Alan.
So part of the article I posted, what part of it is talking about is that sort of this war has gotten lost behind the Ukrainian war and the Israeli-Palestine conflict.
It
as
has
well.
everything to do with inputs, right? Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, people are just algorithms in a sense, and it's come up a lot in the show. But like we respond, our outputs have to do with what inputs we're receiving, and the volume of inputs we're getting are not talking about this. Therefore, the things that we choose to express our concern over is not talking about this enough.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't mean that people are anti-Semitic to not talk about this and talk about Israel, but it does mean that they are. It does say a lot about our media diet and what's fed to us, because we don't get to choose what's in our feed.
It shows up. Yeah. So this is potentially
By accident, Natasha. I don't know why that was in my feed. I don't understand these targeted ads.
There's also concerns that the conflict could spread into like neighbors like Chad.
Right, because so far where RSF is located, they don't quite have like a full land bridge. Like if you're familiar with the whole Iran and the IRGC and their externalized revolution, they've been able to successfully go country to country that borders them and get all the way over to like Syria, right?
Yes.
And so far RSF is relatively been contained away from, and if they have this big victory that they seem to be on the cusp of, they will be able to now spread this to similarly turbulent countries in their region, right?
Yes. And they have a desire to do so. At the beginning of this conflict, it seemed like the RSF was definitely the underdog. I wouldn't say either side are good guys, because they're not. But it is a little bit surprising to me, at least, to see the RSF having these gains and successes. They didn't have like an air force, and the regular army did. They were essentially just foot soldiers. They were a Praetorian Guard for the previous leader there, and so to watch this happen, especially knowing that a lot of these guys in the RSF were former like Janjaweed members who just massacred civilians. It's pretty. It's heartbreaking, and it's also just sad to see that nobody really seems to be paying attention to it. It's like, what are we doing? I understand.
You know what, though? I will say maybe that tide's turning. I just noticed my socks and undies are sticking out. The amount of stories I've heard saying that this is not being covered, unfortunately, it's all in the context of stop talking about Gaza, Palestine, talk about this. And it's like, see the first audio we played in the secret track, like that's not the way to frame it. If you want to get people to think about it, you can ask them a question. You could say like, not in the context of that, what do you think about this? And just keep bringing that up. And I like to think, I appreciate you for putting this in there, that case in point, it did not show up in the delivered headlines.
Yeah, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else do we want to hit here? Maybe
we already did this next one.
Yeah. This one's about Steve Bannon having to report to jail pretty soon.
So there was a few headlines about it. First, it was old that he was going to actually have to go. Then the story was he's going to go to Club Fed, right? Like,
right.
And then it was he's actually going to end up going to the prison that they wrote, or it's a similar prison to what they wrote, like Orange is the New Black about. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Except that's a women's prison, so I don't really know anything about that story other than hearing that.
So he's supposed to
not so nice one now, and probably some time at Rikers based on how that works.
Potentially, he's supposed to turn himself in, I think, July 1st, so a couple weeks
from him talking.
Yeah. His attorneys are obviously trying to overturn the judgment, and they're also trying to say that putting him in jail at that time would be disadvantageous to him being able to participate in sort of the run up to the election, which is what he does. And so they're saying that's not
Or
fair.
you can't do your job. We found
Right.
that you broke the law. What do you remember what he did?
He's in contempt of Congress because he didn't show up when
He's in contempt of Congress because he didn't show up. Why?
because Trump told him not
That's
to.
not the that
Oh.
this is the thing. He's not going to prison because of contempt of Congress. That's the mechanism of it. They called him in front of Congress to talk about the thing that he had co-conspirators that are in prison now and had to
Right.
forfeit millions of dollars over, which was bilking people out of money with like a wall fund.
Right.
That's what he did. Not
Right.
contempt of Congress. That's what finally like put him there.
That's what got him.
But-
Yeah,
but
I understand.
what he did, other people did with him, and they didn't get to be pardoned by the president.
Yeah.
Or actually, this might not have even been what he was pardoned for. That might be a separate thing. But like, there's people that did what he did that went to prison and had to pay restitution.
Yep.
And those people are still in prison. And he's just now going to go to like maybe a not so bad one. Like, dude, and none of that comes up in any of the stories about this. And I'm sorry, I saw this while I was on honeymoon and I was like, nah, we got to talk about that. That's
Yeah.
been like so many of these things go like 5 days and people just forget about it, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I appreciate that you put that in there. All right. We got
Last minute headline. I saw this.
the punk band NoFX is walking away with a farewell tour that is nothing short of a victory lap. So NoFX is they're gonna hang up their drumsticks and guitars, apparently.
Yeah. I saw it was a New York Times headline. I was like, well, I can't read that. Alan, tell me about it. Yeah. 40 years of when you're in your teens and 20s, you think they're good, and then you get a little bit older and you realize they were never. I mean, they were so influential, and of that era when punk really changed,
Yeah.
I love that. Look, if it weren't for NoFX, there would have been pop punk of the late 90s and 2000s, but it would have been different.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a quote here: as the Grateful Dead of punk rock, they played more than 3,000 shows, sold more than 7 million albums without ever having a radio hit or much mainstream attention. So, I mean, pretty
Give
impressive.
yourself credit for that. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Yeah. Linoleum, would you have a favorite?
I can't
think
think of one.
I love Linoleum. I think
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
that opening guitar is just good.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, let's get into media diet.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about this.
So, as foreshadowed, I listened to A Hero of Two Worlds by Mike Duncan, which is about the Marquis de Lafayette and his participation in the American Revolution, as well as multiple French revolutions, and sort of it goes from his childhood all the way to his death. It is, I would imagine, if you bought the actual book, it's quite the tome. It's a lot. But man, just, I think a lot of the way we're taught history is sort of in compartmentalized things where you're taught about the Revolutionary War.
Time.
Yeah, like you're taught about the American Revolutionary War, you're taught about Bonaparte, you're taught about the French Revolutionary War, but you don't see the context of it all like moving together. And just this guy, he just put himself on the line. He was so courageous and so willing to do whatever it took. He really had very strong convictions about liberty and freedom and what that meant.
The
And-
amount of times that he like pushed the envelope about slavery, but did it in a way that you would expect someone of their time and their status to.
Yeah. And this
No
guy,
hero of it, but for his time, quite.
for his time, very
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah.
Yeah. And he didn't have to do any of this stuff.
Right.
He was a rich kid. He could have just chilled.
Yeah, he
I
could have Hunter Biden.
Yeah, he could.
He's the good Hank's son.
He totally could have just
He's the Bo Biden.
he was born into a very wealthy family, married into another wealthy family, and spent all his treasure and put himself personally at risk. He was imprisoned, which had definitely detrimental health effects on him for multiple years in like Austria, I think.
Oh my god, that was so bad.
It was so bad. No,
And
the
the
book-
escape attempt was so cool. Like
that what? Oh, God.
that's a part of his life that like I think very few people know about. The
Right.
prison escapee caught like
Yeah. So when you read this book, you get all the context of like, okay, this is happening over there and this is happening over here at
Fugitive
the
of the
same
law.
time. And just, his wife's family getting guillotined, after one of the revolutions. yeah, just an incredible story, an incredible man, I would say. And for his time, just way ahead of his time as far as his political thoughts and his social thoughts, the way he thought people should be treated. So great book. I could not recommend it more.
I think if there's one thing about that book outside of everything you've said that it's just like in terms of storytelling,
Yeah.
the surrender at Yorktown or
Mhm.
whatever, the Treaty of Paris or the surrender at Yorktown, right? The exchanging of swords and everything.
Yes. Yes.
That that takes place at the exact halfway point of the book.
Yeah.
So you're like, this guy lived a whole fucking life already at the American Revolution, and then you're like, okay, I get it. Though
I'm talking about when Cornwallis surrendered. essentially.
yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Was that somewhere else? It was
No,
after.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It was after Battle.
Okay.
That. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the rest of the book is okay. Now we're going back to France. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Right. I mean, this guy was friends like with George Washington, Thomas Jefferson.
George Washington considered him a son.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And when he came back to America post
His tour of America afterwards.
post the French Revolution, he was just celebrated universally. And I think a lot
Remember
of people
when I talked about Bader Meinhof and how you start seeing things more often.
right.
Have you started seeing things called
Yes.
Lafayette or
Well,
the other one is Lagrange, his estate Lagrange.
yeah.
Now you see Lagrange, Texas. That's
Yeah.
named after Marquis Lafayette.
Right. The park where Trump had where Trump held up the Bible and had the
Bible.
protesters
The
gassed.
Bible, a Bible out.
Yes. Where he had the protesters gassed. That's Lafayette Park. And like the reason is because of this dude. Just an incredible life, man. Incredible life. Great story.
It's just, I mean, you'd be so lucky to be remembered for, a fraction of what
A
this
fraction of it.
like, yeah, the first half of this
essentially-
book is legendary, and then what he does in France goes on. Like,
Right.
these quite. It's the perfect title, "The Hero of Two Worlds."
Yep. And he was so courageous, willing to essentially die for his ideals. That was that guy.
In a non-moronic way, right?
Right.
Not like a Gulf War. You know?
No.
Like,
Yes.
right. These suckers. Am I right, Alan? Now I sound like Trump. What was in it for them, Alan?
All right. The next thing I read, or I'm still listening to, Late Admissions by the economist Glenn Lowry. Dude, this guy. I heard about this guy on Freakonomics podcast a couple weeks ago, and he was telling part of his life story, and I was just so impressed by it. I was like, I gotta get this book because this is an autobiography of his that he just recently wrote and published. He was born in 1948, so he's like in his 70s, and you can tell when you read this book that he's at the point where he has no fucks to give, and he just says what happened, and
My
he
favorite
admits
type of old man.
he admits all of his faults, all like cheating on his wife, smoking crack or meth or whatever it was, like the whole thing. He was essentially he tried to go to school as a young man and failed. He really didn't think he had much of a future in front of him. He was the father of two children before he turned 20, and essentially, he was working a late shift job, and just it was not a great existence, and there didn't seem to be much
It's
hope.
never too late, right? Second best time to plant a tree, right?
Right. There didn't seem to be much hope for his future. He grew up in the South Side of Chicago as a relatively poor kid, and so a lot of what he talks about in the book is class and race, specifically how he encountered it in the academic environment. So he went to Northwestern, got his master's there, and then went to MIT to get his PhD in economics. And then he worked in the universities. He worked at Michigan as a professor, MIT, Harvard, like all over, like very prestigious schools.
Yeah.
And it's just so laid bare, dude. He talks about getting hookers and taking them back to his hotel. Like it's that level of like, he's like, fuck it, I'll just tell the story. I'm not done with it yet. And also politically, he's very interesting because he came up like 68. He was in school when all that stuff was happening, right?
So a student during 68 Democrat
in Chicago.
Oh my God, that's where it happened.
Right. Like he remembers driving to that park where the protests blew up right before
Yeah.
the Democratic convention.
This
Um,
is Chicago 7, right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So remember they wanted to protest the DNC
Wait,
convention. Yeah, Chicago 7.
okay. All right.
There's a Netflix movie about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's Judge
Yeah.
Hoffman and Abby
Yeah,
Hoffman.
Abby, yes. Yeah, so, I mean, so his story arc is just incredible. I'm not, as I said, I'm not done with it yet, but also politically, so he goes from being like a liberal to like a neocon. He was absolutely celebrating when Reagan got the presidency.
Uh-huh.
He actually worked with some people in the administration as an economist during that, and then progressed from that to sort of going back to his more liberal roots, although more of a centrist. He has a lot of commentary about race, just as a black man in that environment of academia and sort of what he experienced, and then how. But it's interesting because it's also a lot more about class, because he talks about like, yeah, these people that I interact with are also black, but they're not like me. Like I have less in common with them than I have with these people. Like it's just
Now you're reminding me of that George Carlin bit at the end of the pre-show.
it's really good. It's really good.
Well, that reminds me. I'm sure somebody he'd love to be associated with the Douglas Murray thing, where it's like within the bell curve, like there is a broader difference amongst these things than there is, like, how do I say that right? Like, I'm doing a bad job. There's a certain spike to IQ, right? But
Mhm.
then within that demographic, there's a very broad spectrum.
Mhm.
And like, so to just be like, well, all of those are like this, that doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so just a really fascinating dude, really fascinating book, and like I said, he just absolutely just lays it out there, and he admits all of his faults, and he did some gnarly shit, dude.
That sounds great. It's just
Yeah, it's
called
good.
Late
It's
Admissions.
Late Admissions.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, worth it.
I watched the movie on Netflix, Hitman by
Okay.
is it Linklater? He's the guy that made not Fast Times. Come on, Dustin. The other high school movie, college movie. Dazed and Confused.
Ah.
So he made Dazed and Confused. And this is Hitman. It's on Netflix. You probably have seen it by now. I hope you have. I won't spoil it. I promise.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
you're
really?
talking about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So it's first of all, it stars Glenn Howell. More on him in a second. If you don't know the name, be prepared to start remembering that name. That you'll as soon as you see the face, you'll be like, yes, him, dashing. So Glenn Howell plays a guy who works with police. Here's what the movie's about. If you've ever thought I'm going to hire a hitman and you went about the steps that you'd think you'd take to hire a hitman, the person you're talking to is not a hitman. They're either a con man that's going to take your money and not do the thing you're paying for, or they're a fucking cop, because nobody's a fucking hitman. Like there are people. I mean, there might be like 2 people on the planet. I'm undershooting this. Like statistically, there are not people online that you can go find and be like $5,000, kill someone.
Pretty rare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty rare.
So he is that person for the police. He, through the course of his line of work, meets a woman that he finds an attraction to and talks her out of going down the route that he normally sets people up for the cops. And then they have a future encounter, and he decides to maintain his what do you call that? Alter ego.
Keeps up his kayfabe.
And hilarity ensues. So it's a comedy. It's a comedy first. There's a bit of suspense and action in it. And Glenn Howell, he played Goose's son in Top Gun 2. He played
that's where I know him from.
The guy across from Tits McGee in that Sydney Sweeney movie, that the dating movie where they hold we're pretending to have an affair while they were doing promo for it. When I first saw this, I was like, dude, this guy Glenn Howell is an industry plant. And then I was like, I got to go to his IMDb. No, he's just a very, very, very handsome actor who has been trying to break through one way or another. And he did like Scream Queens, right? Like he's been doing movies for a while, and he's finally hitting his stride. I got to say, when I watched it, he has so many fucking Tom Cruise mannerisms. And I think it's because he did Top Gun 2, and that production took a long time because it got shut down.
Oh, yeah.
COVID. So I
Right,
bet he
right.
had a lot of opportunities. Either that or Tom Cruise didn't do any of his scenes with other people, which I was equally believe. I also have a theory. I want you to see this movie. It's good. It's really good. I recommend it. It says it's a true story, and there's a fun little twist at the end talking about whether it's true or not. I won't ruin that. But it's funny, and he's got good timing, and he reminds me not only of Tom Cruise, but a little bit of Brad Pitt. Of like, God, you're very good looking. Like, this man is going to be in every, like, Matthew McConaughey / Brad Pitt. Like, I know Brad Pitt didn't do a lot of romantic comedies, but like between the rom-coms and the action movies he can do, like, this guy is the next Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise.
Nice.
I can't get over how handsome he is, Alan. Like,
I
it's
just saw a
unbelievable.
picture. He's
Like, it's
pretty-
really unbelievable, and he's funny. And and they uglied him up for him. They did the She's All That for him. They gave him glasses and like messed up his hair.
Yeah, it's almost unfair how attractive he is.
It's Nate Craig. Like, come on, nobody gets to be both of these things.
All right, shall we? Or do you have more?
No, I'm ready for a game.
Let's play a game. All right,
I
so
can
this
smell
is
Natasha's cooking. I'm so tired of not eating.
this is a wacky or cackalacky.
Oh, thanks, Thrash.
Yeah. So you want to go ahead and you have to pick. So one of these is true. 2 of them are false.
Okay, awesome. And you've moved the answers from the end of the sentence. I can read the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay. Most of downtown Star, North Carolina. So there's a city called Star, North Carolina. It's not the star on the map where Raleigh is, right?
No.
Okay. It's a real place. Most of downtown Star, North Carolina is owned by an eccentric psychic named Gary Spivey, who wears all white and a giant white afro. I'm just saying that's true. You can't make up that much and expect. You're not tricking me with that one. The steepest rail line in the United States was the Saluda Grade, built in 1870s by chain gangs. The line crosses the Blue Ridge to connect Asheville with Spartanburg, with a maximum grade of 5%. For context, standard grade is 1%. So the steepest rail grade. Oh, so this is a train line, not like a tram or something, or not
Right.
Okay. There was a lot of facts in there that I feel like could be manipulated to make that one wrong, like the
Okay.
cities or the grade. The last slave-owning member of Congress was Matt W. Ransom, a North Carolina senator and former Confederate brigadier general who publicly supported repealing the 13th Amendment as late as 1904. 1904. Last slave-owning member. Oh boy, that sounds awfully cackalacky. I'm going to go with my gut and say number 2, the steepest rail line. Oh no.
Wrong.
It wasn't the first one, was it?
No, it was number 3.
So what? So was it a different person? Was it a different state?
So he was a slave owner in general, but he wasn't the last. It was an 87-year-old woman from Georgia who was senator for one day in 1922, first woman and last slave owner in Congress.
First woman in Congress
Yes.
was also a slave owner.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
And
be
last
America.
slave owner.
Wouldn't be America if it weren't, right? Speaking of racist ass shit, I have some golf questions to get us out of the show.
Oh, okay.
Great quiz, Thrash. You got me.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple of golf related things. It's not really golf related, it's entertainment. Did you know there's going to be a John Daly movie?
No.
I
That's
want
awesome,
you to
though.
guess who the actor is going to be.
Oh. Zach Galifianakis.
That's a great guess. That's actually, that would have been better. I think the actor that they cast he's going to play it more like if they wanted to do like a Adam McKay movie,
Mhm.
that Zach would have been better. One
So-
more guess. Body
Jonah
type?
Jonah Hill.
No, that's also a good guess.
Okay.
Too skinny.
He lost a lot of weight now. Yeah,
Too Jewish, Alan.
yeah.
Kevin James.
Kevin, no, I don't like that.
You don't?
I don't like that.
You don't like it at all?
No, I don't
think
like
it's
Kevin
good.
James.
I know. I think of Kevin James as bland, unfunny sitcom comedy.
Yeah,
I think he has it in him. I think
Fucking
he actually
Volkov.
has it in him to do both the serious and the outrageous of him. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this as much as I'm looking forward to the fact that there's going to be a Happy Gilmore 2. Did you know about
I
this?
did not know that either.
So
great.
how do you think they're going to do this movie? I don't have answers to this. I'm just talking about
Happy
how do you think they're
Gilmore's-
going to actually do that movie? Like, what's it?
I mean, he already got his grandmother's house back.
Right.
So
So what? He retired, right? They're going to
Okay.
use modern day Adam Sandler.
right.
So what do you
Is he
think?
gonna be like a coach, like a golf coach?
I think that's one angle, right? I
Okay.
think he's going to be like a not washed up, a guy that rode off into the sunset. So the
Yeah.
first like 20 minutes of the movie is all about like him just, catching up on Happy, right? Living it up as Mr. Deeds, just
right,
everything's
right,
good.
right.
Living off all that Happy Gilmore hotel money because it's all the same guy, right?
Right.
And golf money. And then about the 20-minute mark, it's going to be this upcoming hot shot on the tour that, he doesn't even run up to the ball and hit it with a hockey shot, but he's some other like outrageous player. And he's going to call him out. He'd be like, Happy Gilmore, you ain't shit. I bet you couldn't beat me one-on-one. And it's going to be all about
Oh.
Happy. He's going to have to go back. There'll be a Rocky montage where he learns how to golf again.
Yep.
You know,
Run up the steps. the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah. And then he I bet in the end the other guy wins, but they become friends in the process.
Oh, okay. That's a
I
good.
just
I could,
that's
that's a
a
good
Happy
story.
Madison fucking movie if you could script
Yeah.
one. Like,
Yeah, it's a good story. Good story.
I was supposed to just kind of have a funny little thing and leave. I wasn't supposed to pitch it. Okay, let's give since we're throwing names out all episode. Let's put Toaster out there with this one. Is Bulgaria real? Are Bulgarians real? Is Bulgaria real? And if so, are Bulgarians really real?
I think they are. Yes.
I don't know.
I think I've had some work for me at some point in my life.
Bulgarians, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's still on the internet. I used to know Bulgarians. Not Bulgarians.
Well, Bulgaria's like
It's like there, right? It's like it's not there, but it's like
there's like
there.
Greece. There's like Greece, and then
There's that, and then there's
It's
like
like
Serbia. Is over
Bulgaria's. Yeah.
here. It's where's Bulgaria? I don't think Bulgaria is.
It's,
All right,
it's like
I'm not gonna
Burkina
get better
Faso.
than that. I gotta press the thing.
Yeah, press the thing.
I went the wrong direction.
When a guy's banging you,
Y'all let me in this damn house.
Oh, how about that?
Come in the name of peace.
LMFAO.
So what in the world is this?
Is Kevin McCarthy a moron, and if so, why?
Why would you say something that stupid?
I come without explanations or solutions.
I'm a very sexy lady.
Cat turd.
I will not suffer this harlot. How great! An anti-American Marxist.
Ted Cruz, go fuck yourself.
Read the news.
China is asshole.
God bless the United States.
Podcasting.
That was the perfect spot for it, right?
Yeah.
That was like
absolutely.
right there, right? Yeah. Two. All right.
All right, bro. Cheers. See you next week.
See ya.